It's Tuesday, and it would have been Tuesday at 12:30, but we've had a few technical issues today. So hello and welcome. And for those of you that are wondering where we've been a little bit late today, but you know, the beauty and the wonder of doing things live is when it happens live and we've got technical issues live, you have to deal with them there and then. So I'm so pleased that we've finished dealing with all of those, and an extra special thank you to my guest today, Alan Stevens, for his patience. Hello, Alan.
Thank you very much. It's interesting watching somebody else having the technical problems for a change. Usually it's me.
Well, as I was saying, after 40 shows, today's just wasn't going and wasn't working at all. So it's been really a lot of fun. But now that we're here, I'm so excited that you're my extra special guest today. And for those of you that aren't as aware of Alan, let me give you a little bit of background on this incredible man, this incredible expert on the area of profiling. Now, there may be some people that don't even know what profiling is, but we'll hear all about that today and how it relates to creating that successful mindset. But even more importantly, Alan is well known globally for all the work that he does, whether it's about profiling celebrities like the royal family, or also helping out like the Australian Federal Police with their profiling work. As a communications and non-verbal expert, Alan is well versed to help us today and to help you as we talk about through the next session, what it is we can look at and use in terms of profiling to help us come out of lockdown, come out of COVID, and look even more at that mindset for success down to even the micro expressions on your face. But I'm sure you're all wondering, like I am, what sort of background, how do you become a profiler? So Alan, without further ado, would you love to tell everybody your bit about your background and how you came to be doing this fascinating work?
Well, thanks very much for that. Now, I know that we were looking earlier at the LinkedIn comments that were up there. A lot of people were saying that they weren't very good at reading people. Well, the good news is neither was I. I'd been through a lot of relationships, 2 divorces. I raised 3 boys on my own. I've worked with men who are older than me and had to get them on side. And all the way through life, I've always been behind everybody, trying to understand about their personalities, trying to understand what made them tick. And so I've added services and products to what I've been doing along the way. At the age of 23, I was put in charge of men who are all older than me, and I had to get them on side. I was 23, my second in charge was 38, so 15 years difference. Another gentleman had been my senior officer in Sydney, and he was now on my staff as well. In my mid-30s, I joined the surf club and became a surf lifesaver. And of course, they taught me to be a patrol captain. And I found out why, because they gave me everybody that nobody else wanted. And so I had to get them on side and also develop them into a good squad. And we won the Patrol of the Year. So because I did that, they then wanted me to become the club captain and be in charge of the group. And from there, I kept that patrol together and raised one of them up into the patrol captain's job. And without me being involved in the selections that following year, they still won the Patrol of the Year. So that was another understanding of when you read people, understand them well, you can create and lead your teams really well. But after that, I became zone supervisor of 3 beaches as well. Now I'm the same age as everybody on the committees, but as they pointed out, they've been there since they were kids, and I've been there for 5 minutes as far as they were concerned. Well, they had to listen to what I said because they put me in charge. So it was something they just had to tolerate. And then in my late 30s, my first wife left and I had the 3 boys to raise. So you could virtually say the youngest in business, the least experienced in the surf club, and totally out of my depth raising the 3 boys. And so I've had to learn how to read people along the way. After my second divorce, I got back into massage therapy and did my NLP masters and got myself back up on that level. And at that point, I worked with a company that were teaching currency trading, and none of their students had made any money. That's why they brought me in to try and figure out why. They had a brilliant instructor who was teaching them. They still were losing money. And I realized it was around their personalities. And in those days, I used to use psychometric profiling, Myers-Briggs, DISC, and all of those systems where you ask people questions. But I realized that when they went live, they were still losing money and they weren't behaving as their personality profiles were showing. And so I needed a better system. And somebody just said to me one day, Just, have you looked at reading faces? And I went, oh, that sounds interesting. I'll have to check that out. And I found the two world specialists, in one on the micro expressions and one on being able to read someone's personality, put that together with body language and the skills of NLP, the language, and created rapid trait profiling. And that's been my history in a nutshell.
Wow. And what a history. I mean, out of all that, the main thing I had was raising 3 boys on your own. I mean, that takes a lot of courage and a lot of, yes, reading faces of the boys as well. You know, have you done that? And they're trying to not look guilty. So I imagine that gave you a lot of insight into human behaviour, as well as, you know, when they were saying they did it and they hadn't actually done something to protect somebody, you know, both sides of that extreme. And it's fascinating that, you know, you saw so many different angles as well to it, the NLP, the micro expressions, as well as the face profiling. Having such an interesting insight then into human beings and behaviour and what they're saying in that non-verbal, what do you think then success means to you? What has been the greatest thing that you've learnt or understood about yourself to do with success?
Well, the first thing, success to me is all about, everything in life is about relationships. Relationships are the foundation of everything we do. So to be able to build relationships, even as a salesperson, I don't worry about the product or service until I've built the relationship. I know a lot of people listening will say, oh, the important thing in your business is your product or your service. Well, if you can't build a relationship, you're never going to get the chance to show people how good you are or how good your product is. And so with that, you have to build a relationship first. So for me, success was learning how to build those relationships. And so once I got that in place, I went, great, I'm there. But also making sure that I'm always growing as well. I build a relationship with somebody, but also in all areas of life, whether it be raising your children, guiding them to the right direction. Because as parents, our job is not to be sculptors or carpenters. Our job is to be a gardener. So we're not to turn our children into something. We nurture them so they become the best version of themselves. So success is always going to be measured on the results that I get with the connections I make, more so than the money I make. And so that's always been the definition.
I really love that. Sorry, I was just so excited because I really love that description of with your children. It's not about being the carpenter, but the gardener. Because I actually think that that's similar to relationships with your clients as well. You're actually providing the fertile ground and you're providing the tools and different things that they might need at times, but you're allowing them, and this for me is really important with our clients, you're allowing them to grow at the pace that's comfortable for them, as well as, you know, like Jasmine will say something like that, say, well, you need to actually build a foundation structure to support the Jasmine to grow in a certain way. That's wonderful insights there. And so with that, I know that we had a lot of conversations this morning through social media and in other forums where people have talked about, well, how can this profiling help me to understand better if I'm going for a job interview, if I'm talking to those clients, so that I can understand, like you're saying with the fabulous example you used, they had a great system, but they weren't making the money. And so they brought in somebody to look at that. So for people watching, what sort of tips would you give as to how they can improve understanding what's going on when they're watching people?
Well, I have what I call the 7 secrets to reading people, but the first 3 are the most important. Number 1 is to know yourself first of all. And then number 2 is to be able to read the other person. And number 3, change the way you like to be spoken to match the way the other person needs to be spoken to. So if I can recognize that in someone's face, and if I may, when I'm looking at you, I know that you analyze things. You need all the information before you make a decision. And so once you've got that, though, then it's just give me the best way to do it and get out of the way and let me get it done. I know when you're delivering information, you're going to be concise. So I know that not to give embellished sentences and big descriptions, but keep it straight to the point. And I know that you'll follow that. I know that you're adventurous as well, so that I can say to you, I can talk about the product and service, how you're going to be able to use this in an adventurous way. Talk about being one of the first people to do this, how that's going to add excitement to your world. I also know that you're quite comfortable when you meet people for the first time and they'll step close to you, and that doesn't worry you so much. But there'll be times when you'll step close to people and they've stepped back. simply because they have the opposite trait. So I know that you're analytical. So if I just give you the overview, you're going to be going, where's the rest of the information? And while I'm trying to go wide.
What line says I'm analytical on my face?
Well, this one is the exposed and concealed eyelids. If you look at your eyelids, there's a fold of skin that your eyelids go underneath. And if you just close your eyes for a moment, look at the camera, and let the other people who are watching this see, you see how when Michelle's eyes are shut now, there's a fold of skin. Now, if you open your eyes, that fold of skin comes down onto the eyelashes. They actually go underneath. So close one eye yourself and have a look. And you see how there's no fold of skin. As you bring it up, open it up, it then...
Oh, yeah, there is that fold.
Yeah.
I
so with yours
said that my eye needs to go on a diet to get rid of the fold, but yeah, I've always had that.
Well, think about it. You're thinking all the time. You're looking down. It's the movement of the muscles. See, if you think about you lift weights, you're going to build muscles in your body. We also know that everything we feel inside, we express outwardly. That's why our body language and our expressions tell everybody our emotions. So if you concentrate in a certain way over and over, you're going to pull expressions over and over through your life. You're going to create ridges and crevices on your face, which now become a roadmap, a history of how you like to think and process, which is not your character, but your personality, the how you like to take information in and the how you like to process it. So if I can see your photograph, some people on Zoom are saying, oh, I'll turn my camera off. If you got your picture there, I've got your personality. And it's probably easy because there's no movements or anything else. I'm just getting a natural photo that you took looking at the camera. But then when I'm talking to you, now I've got the body language and expressions that give me the confirmation. Have I read you right? Are you telling, is there something emotionally going on, first of all? And lastly, are you telling me the truth? Where people use the micro expressions for detecting liars, I use it as a truth seeker. Because I'm talking to a client and I know they're not operating within their personality because their face is telling me one thing, but they're behaving in a different way. I know something's going on. So then forget doing the sale. I can start talking to them, uncover what's going on, help them through that. Now I've got that know, like, and trust with them because I've taken that time. I've shown the true interest in them, not a manipulative interest, but a true one. They then have a connection with me. And after that, I've got a loyal client. So when we get back to talking about the service or product, they may not, I don't have to sell to them, but they'll be buying from me because they now want to be part of that. We've built that rapport, but I do it in a genuine way to build a relationship, not to manipulate them because they will pick it up if you're trying to manipulate.
People do, and I really appreciate you saying that because one of the things I found is especially with the way I communicate with people and who I am, people end up telling me things completely unrelated to what we're meant to be meeting about or what's going on in their lives. They tell me things that they would not normally tell anybody else. And I've always found that a great privilege as well as a great responsibility to honour what they're saying and how they're saying it. So it's quite funny because I'm sure that all of my lines also reflect that.
Yeah. Now, every time I'm interviewed, I like to throw this one thing in for the more mature ladies out there, because I know that you'll be talking, a lot of them will talk about these lines, you know, the laughter lines, or as some people might call them, crow's feet. They talk about beauty being skin deep. Well, that's beauty that goes all the way to the bone, because you don't get those lines unless you're really smiling a lot and you tighten the muscles up around your eyes, that you then crinkle the little piece up the side here. So if I see a mature age woman who doesn't have those lines, either they've had cosmetic surgery, Botox or something like that, or they haven't been happy most of their life. And in a group, that's somebody I'm probably not going to talk to. But if I've seen a mature woman and she's got those lines and I know nobody in that group, that's probably the person I'll go and chat with, because I know the conversation's going to be a good one. So they are beauty marks.
Oh, thank you. And it's fascinating you should mention that, because in my meditation group, for example, the older women there, they always had these beautiful, like, no lines on the forehead, which I always found interesting, because many people do have lines on their forehead. But yes, you're right, they always had the laughter lines around their eyes.
Yeah, so
Wonderful.
they're beautiful to see in someone's face because you know that person's been happy. If the corner of the mouth is also turned up, the very corner, you know that that person smiles a lot. Now, if I see a lady or anybody who's got the corner of the mouth down and no lines up here, then there's a chance that they've had some cosmetic surgery, because you don't just get the turned up mouth without getting those lines as well.
True. And isn't it interesting when you do meet people who've got mouths that go like that, or they're gritting their teeth and stuff. So with these amazing insights, what else can you share with people? Because I didn't realize about the laughter lines obviously are really a very good indicator, and as well as the extra skin, you know, from reading and all of the study that I've done throughout my life. So I'm quite analytical, like you say. What else can you share with people about when they're looking at somebody? There's the obvious, you know, like they're looking away or they're looking to the left or the right when they're talking to you. But given that people haven't been used to being face-to-face because of COVID, and also even on Zoom sometimes now, people don't always share their image. So like you were saying, you have to read it from a photo or something. But what else would be the main tips to share with people as to how they can even, you know, share themselves in a more relaxed manner, given that people may be facing some anxiety now going back to seeing people in real life?
Yeah, and that is going to be an issue, because I believe that a lot of people have got out of practice of communicating and connecting. And it is, especially for our millennials, they're going to find a bit of a struggle, a lot of the teenagers in particular, because they haven't been socialising and now they've got to get back to socialising, and they weren't that good at it to start with. It was always on their devices. And so that will be an issue. But as far as some of the things, like if I can see your face, like I know that, as I said, you're comfortable standing close to people when you meet them for the first time. When I meet you in real life, I'm going to realise you're going to come up and stand fairly close, and I'll be comfortable with that. And that's because of the low set eyebrows. There's only a small gap between your upper eyelid and the eyebrow. Whereas if somebody's eyes are up like that, that's like fear and surprise. And that fear and surprise, the person pulls back. We also pull back from them. So people who've got naturally high set eyebrows, we interpret that they're not friendly, but in reality, they're just more discerning. You know, because every trait has an upside and every trait has a downside. The upside of your trait is, and like mine is, we're affable, we're friendly with everybody. But that's also the downside. We're friendly with the wrong people as well. And we're
friendly with everyone, yeah.
Yeah, and you get taken in then by the con artist. But the person who's got the opposite trait, the more discerning, they like to stand back and check everybody out. Once they've worked out that you're safe to be around, they'll come just as close. So if I meet somebody who's got the higher set eyebrows and first time in life, they come up towards me in life, I'll stop before they get to me and put my hand out and let them set up their space. And you'll find that they will always stand that little bit further back. Because if I then step in, they'll move back. And I do this whenever I do workshops. I'll get someone who's got the high set eyebrows, bring them out the front and do that demonstration. And everybody is aghast when the person just moves back. And if I then turn, because I might be standing like that too, and as I turn to the audience, I'll step this way close to them and they'll just boom. But there's ways of meeting that person. If you're in a close quarters and you have to stand close, turn your body as soon as you've met them. Give them that bit of space in front. So you can read the person, you can use this straight away. And so I know that when you're working on things, if you're busy on it, leave you alone. Don't come over and interrupt you.
It's fascinating, isn't it? And I'm sure you've seen this with different cultures as well. People from different cultures have different kinds of interpretations. And I noticed this especially when I was traveling around the world, and you'd be on transport or in meeting rooms or in buildings, and that sense of personal space, which we have a much higher sense of personal space here. And I guess that's one of the things from coming out of COVID. We've had a lot of personal space because we've been in our own homes. And now coming back, you know, even standing in line for a bus or a train or something, we've got to get used to people being in that closer proximity than we've had before. So being aware that, you know, if people are walking around with that shocked expression on their face, it actually might be them processing a lot of what's going on for them as well with that fear.
Yeah, it'll be their traits, but it'll also be the conditioning that we've been put under as well. You know, our officials and now, especially our mainstream media, have done a very good job of instilling fear. And so a lot of people are going to be fearful about getting around people again. Even when we're told it's safe and we can get back to our normal spaces, people will still be looking at each other suspiciously. Someone sneezes and everyone's going to react, or there's a slight cough, just a clearing of a throat. That's going to cause some issues as well. So we have got a fair bit of re-educating to do over the next few months.
Yeah, I think that realignment to being around each other. I know for myself, even during COVID, when I've gone out walking, and people may have not been quite as aware that when they're jogging and breathing all over people, that people don't want to be breathing in their air, but they just don't have that understanding because they're just jogging and they're ignoring the world. They're in their own little jog zone. And things like that where people's patience with things, we've seen a lot of that where, so I guess another area then could be, what would be your suggestions that those are great ones about the high eyebrows and people like myself and you with the eyebrows. But when people are going out, what are some of the expressions perhaps on faces that they should be looking, okay, this is a safe person to kind of approach and kind of get used to being around people, or this is like the high eyebrows, don't go near them because of they need time to process being around outside or something.
Yeah, well, the face has got 43 muscles and it can pull up to, and they believe, about 10,000 expressions. There are 3,000 that have actually mapped and given names to, but there are 7 expressions which are universal. And it doesn't matter if you've been born in a tribal village, a capital city, or even if you've been blind from birth. If you feel any one of those 7 expressions, you will have the corresponding expression on your face. And so if you're feeling anger, they'll have an angry look on their face. So you've got with 7 expressions: anger, contempt and disgust, happiness, sadness, fear and surprise. So any of those emotions a person's feeling, they'll have that corresponding expression on their face. So if people are walking around with a genuine smile, you're pretty safe. Now, if they're walking around and they're walking casually, just look at the body language. They're walking like they're a bit controlled. That would be something to stand back from as well. If they don't have a smile on their face, if they've got more of a frown or more of an unhappy look on their face, all of those things that we just naturally know. Because, by the way, everybody who's watching this may think that they're not really good at reading people. But as children, everybody was perfect at reading people. That's how we survived. We knew the facial features to be able to recognize somebody. Was this a friend? Was this a foe? Was this somebody we knew or not? Then the emotions. If this was somebody that we shouldn't be around and they're looking angry, whoa, get the hell out of there. If it was somebody we knew and they were angry, somebody a friend, then we might want to walk to them and find out what's going on to support them. So every child, except for a very small few who have certain conditions, everybody was a perfect profile as a young child. But as we get older, it's like any muscle, as I said, you don't work it, it atrophies. And so the end result is the skill just drops away. But how many times have you heard somebody say something and everything sounded fine, but you had that gut feeling something was wrong? And people will say, oh, that was my intuition. It's more than likely it's your unconscious mind has picked up the non-verbals. You've seen the expressions that didn't correlate with what was being said, the body movements, etc. And we'll always go with our gut feeling, the things that our unconscious mind has picked up, rather than go with the words. If the words don't correlate, then we'll go with the movements and everything else first. And it's only when we get the words aligned with that we're happy with that communication and we can trust that person. So it's looking for any variations, looking for anything that looks like they're unhappy in any way.
And that raises a really good point around masks. So some of the people were asking today, and I found it funny yesterday when I was out and I was realizing I was smiling at somebody, but they couldn't see because I had a mask on. How do you, I guess it's reading more overall the body language and where the eyes are, whether they're pointing, looking down or looking up, or not able to look at people, especially when you're covered with a mask and you can't see people's mouths anymore.
Well, see, we give away about 2 million, or take in, I should say, 2 million bits of information every second through all of our sensors, but we only process about 134 bits. So even if the mask is covered, see, even if somebody's wearing a burqa and all I've got is like a letterbox you can see their eyes, I can still pick up a number of personality traits, and I can pick up about 5 of the 7 expressions as well, the micro expressions, because the whole thing is everything we feel inside, we express outwardly. Our neurology and physiology are linked all the time. So while somebody's moving around, if they're unhappy, we'll see it in the smile. We'll also see it in the eyes. We'll see it in the color of the skin as well. The pupils of the eyes, if there's no change in the light, you can see the pupil size change depending on the amount of arousal or fear that the person's feeling. They'll dilate or they'll contract. And the breathing, etc. Where are they breathing from? If they're breathing from their diaphragm to start with, and all of a sudden it comes more to the chest, and they start talking faster, the pace, the tone, all of these things, there's a myriad of information that we can take in. So there's no shortage when it comes to being able to read somebody, even if they're, well, as I say, if they're on the phone, for instance, and all you've got is their voice. They say the words are worth 7%, the tone of voice is worth 38%, and the body language 55%. And people will say, oh, but yes, on the phone, you can't see the body language. Most of the body language transfers into the tone of voice. The words only go up to 17%. And so now you've got the tone of voice is taken in the body language. And I say to anybody, try sitting back in a comfortable position on a chair with your feet up and try and lay down the law. You cannot. You will find that you naturally come up, you put your feet on the ground, you'll actually stand up, shoulders back, chest out. You know, cordless phones were brilliant because I could walk around and talk to people on the cordless phone and pace slightly, not fast enough to lose my breath, but just slightly, so I could feel that feeling of power, so I could project my voice properly. So there's even if they were wearing a bag over their head, you could still pick all this stuff up. That's a beautiful part of it.
And that ties in nicely to one of the tricks I heard years ago about women. You know, if you're in a room and it's all high-powered men and, you know, naturally you're shorter and this and that and whatever, but to stand there, you know, with your hands on your hips. And when I heard about how that was correlated to when we were more primal, and it was about, you know, like dogs and whoever, making yourself bigger so that you've got a bigger presence. And I thought, oh, isn't that interesting? And I've remembered it and actually used it a couple of times when I felt like, you know, everything was quite aggressive in the room. It was a lot of men discussing things, and I've needed to kind of be like a cat or a dog and make my physical body bigger just to kind of have that same presence and hold the space.
Yeah, so in that little moment, that's good, because, but only for that very short moment. Because like if somebody's angry, I'm not going to go up to them and say, oh, it's okay, it's okay. That's inviting a punch in the face. But if I come up to them and I raise my voice to match theirs so that they recognize that it's okay for them to be angry because I've just got angry, then I can change the pace and I can turn it down, and it's like starting a dance, a waltz, for instance. You have to push your partner and then you glide. So there's an original push. So to stand there and put that stance on to get the people's attention is great, but change it as quickly as you can. Where most women in business go wrong is trying to compete with the men. And I go, don't go into a fight with your arms tied behind your back. You're complementary. You bring something to the boardroom that men cannot bring to the boardroom. Bring that and the men will then follow. This is the whole thing.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, I get really worried when I see a woman saying, I've got to be tough, I've got to be tough. And I go, why would you hold yourself back? Bring your power to the room. What you
have to do is actually do things like that. So you get exactly that. That's why I was doing it, to get the attention. And then you go back into, and this is what I'm saying, because it's like, I always think of it as like piercing a balloon, because for me, it's about the energy has got to a certain point, and then you're just kind of going in there and saying, okay, I'm here and I'm a gladiator like you, but I'm not going to stay as a gladiator like you because that's not my natural stance.
In the dance, that's that push, and then after that, the glide.
Oh, fabulous.
The first part of the push we don't really take much notice of, but the part we really love watching when people are dancing is that flowing movement, and that's where the real power comes in.
Ebb and flow of it all. Talking about ebb and flow, I'm sure that there's people watching that would love to hear more and to talk to you more about how to learn about doing profile and things. How can they get hold of you?
Well, the best way is probably through my website, which is alanstevens.com.au, and Alan with one L, ALAN, and Stevens, STEVENS then .com.au. Come in there and have a look around, and you'll find a lot of information where people have talked about the results they've got out. Because I can talk all day, but what are you going to get out of it? Go and hear what other people have got out of it. And if you also put the / behind the AU and the word free, they can download a free copy of or a free course, which will take them 28 minutes. It'll teach them a number of traits to quickly read people, and also where the eyes move when somebody's sourcing information. And they can start applying that to their own interactions with people.
Fabulous. What great tools. And thank you for that free gift that people can use, especially to help, as we were saying, to come out and get used to being around people again post-COVID and lockdown.
That's it.
And if you were to, because this is a strange time of life, but if you were to quickly, what advice would you give your younger self?
Oh, the first thing, or one thing I have learned along the years has been the most important thing I've ever learned is the next thing I learn after I think I know everything. It took me a while to learn that one. But the main thing would have been to have faith in myself. Yes, as the Arabs say, that there's an old saying, I trust everybody, but lock your camels up at night. So what I should have done was got as many coaches I possibly could, learnt from all of them, and then looked at how I could apply it and assessed it all for myself. One of the things I've learned as I've gone through life is I'll always have a coach. Next year I turn 70 and I'll still have coaches well after that. The main reason is that I will always have something else to learn, and I'm always going to have the right people around me. But another important thing is what you do for yourself dies with you, but what you do for others and for the community is and always will be eternal. So it's the connections again that you make with people that will really make this time on the planet really worthwhile for you and also for people around you.
And what a wonderful, and I really felt that, one a wonderful and heartfelt way to end today's show. So thank you so much for being a fabulous guest today on the show. And apologies again for the slight technical terrors at the beginning, Alan.
These things happen.
They do. So thank you to everybody watching, and apologies again for being slightly late today. I also want to do a big throw out to the Campfire Project, which is another of Alan's big projects. So please go to his website and have a look at the materials on there, and it'll also tell you some of the amazing work that he's doing in the mental health space with the Campfire Project. But from my heart to your heart, be great, be fabulous, and be you.